Hey everybody and welcome to Chairman of the Board. Today I'm counting down my top 5 games that I hate. Now these aren't games that I think are objectively bad. I mean, I can see why people do like them, but me personally, I just didn't get along with them whatsoever and I would never ever want to really play them again. So they're very popular games, so let's get started at number 5. So at number 5 I have Betrayal at House on the Hill. Now this is a game that is pretty popular for what it is. I mean, it's a kind of thematic game where you're exploring this kind of mansion. One player is eventually going to get revealed as the kind of betrayer, and then you play through like one of many scenarios and kind of resolve what's going on. The game is very random. It uses kind of dice to kind of resolve combat and stuff like that, and it's very lucky. A lot of the scenarios are pretty much broken before they get even started, in my opinion. So for example, like I don't know, you might want to have to find a certain artifact, but then you know, it's already in the right hands of somebody and you're right by the door, so the betrayer can't even win. So it's very circumstantial that it will actually work the way it's supposed to work, and I just find that kind of unreliability and kind of you know, that kind of chaos a bit unappealing. I think it kind of goes on a bit longer than what it should. I think the rules, or the fact that there's a betrayer revealed halfway through and then they've got to go off on their own and read their own little rules, that kind of really breaks the kind of flow of the game, and it makes it bogged down and it slows it down. It just feels very clunky, it feels a bit dated, and I just didn't get along with it at all. I understand this isn't really a game that was made for someone like me, but again, I just didn't really enjoy it whatsoever. So that's number 5, Betrayal at House on the Hill. At number 4, I have a racing game with Formula D. Now this is a game where you're basically rolling dice to move around this track. It kind of has this push your luck kind of mechanism where basically if you roll a dice, you can go up a gear, which means you can roll dices with more kind of faces on, which means you're going to move further and further. But you have to slow down when you're on corners, or risk kind of burning out your tyres and stuff like that. It sounds really cool, like from the face of it, but I think the game just feels so, I get really frustrated by it. I just don't enjoy anything about it. I think a lot of the time the luck's too much in it, and it just feels very start and stop, and sometimes you could take loads of damage through no fault of your own, and you're out of the race before you know it. I just really don't enjoy it. If you want to play the whole 2 laps, it just feels like a complete drag, and I just want it to end as soon as we start. One lap I might be able to tolerate, but I still hate every second of it. Just not a game I enjoy whatsoever. That's Formula D. At number 3, I definitely have the heaviest game on the list with The Gallerist. Now this is a strange one because I'm a big Eurogamer, I love my Eurogames, but this one from Vital Lacerda, who's a very acclaimed designer, it really put me off playing any of his games. It was just way too fiddly, way too complex just for the sake of it. Every player who was learning this was completely lost. The rules overhead was just ludicrous. Honestly, so confusing. The idea of it is pretty cool. You know, you have your own kind of art gallery, and you kind of investing in artists to try and make their work more expensive and stuff like that. But it just didn't land for me. It was just confusing. It lasted way too long. I mean, just painfully long. Components wise and everything, it looked was absolutely beautiful, but the gameplay was just an absolute drag. I said just mechanisms chucked in there just for the sake of it. Just the complete opposite of being streamlined, in my opinion. Just an absolute just a mess of a game. I can understand the genius that goes behind it, but it just wasn't fun, and it just was not for me at all. And I think everybody else who played it felt the same way. I understand there's a market, or a very niche market, for Eurogames that are this heavy. But yeah, no fun to be had at all for me on this one. That's The Gallerist by Vital Lacerda. At number 2, I have another very popular area control style game with Dominant Species. Now this, again, it comes back to what I was saying about The Gallerist, where it just seems so convoluted and this one's not so much in the mechanisms, this one's in the upkeep of the game, because one kind of, the idea of the game is that you are this kind of unique species and you're trying to adapt to your habitat and thrive as much as possible. but people can kind of modify, or you can kind of modify the kind of habitats you can live in, and the kind of terrains on the board can change, and the kind of the cascading effect or the domino effect that can have on your bookkeeping is absolutely just brain frazzling. It's just so unintuitive, and just the kind of maths that you're constantly going through in your head is just an absolute pain in the ass. I played the game and I absolutely won it. I don't mean to brag, but I absolutely smashed the scoring on it and I won the game, and I still despised it. I hated everything about it. As again, just convoluted for the sake of it. If there was a way to streamline the game, I think it would really benefit, because the idea of it's quite good. The worker placement aspect of the game is done quite well, but it's just that bookkeeping and the upkeep and the housekeeping of it was just absolutely painful to get through. It lasted way too long. I think the game looks ugly as anything. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy a second of it. That is Dominant Species. And finally, at number 1, I have a tremendously rated game, one that's, I think, is in the top 20 on Board Game Geek. This is Food Chain Magnate. Now, again, I understand I love the concept of it, the fact that you're trying to run your own kind of food chain, enterprise. It has this really cool mechanism where you're trying to kind of make these little hierarchies of staff and trying to be as efficient as possible. But the game is just way too, and I mean way too cutthroat for me. The way that you can get shafted through no fault of your own in this game is absolutely painful. I mean, you just feel like you're getting something going and someone just drags the rug from under your feet. I really hate that kind of interaction in games, and this one is just the epitome of that. I mean, for example, you can have like a really cool engine going where you're selling burgers to players, and then someone advertises something where none of the kind of customers want burgers anymore. They all want beer, meaning your whole kind of previous turns are just completely gone out the window. I really dislike this one. I said I love the theme of it. I love the idea of it. The production is pretty shocking, to be honest. I hate the look of it. It feels really homemade, almost like a print and play style game. I get the kind of theme they're going for, that kind of 1950s kind of, kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, kind of aesthetic. But yeah, it didn't land at all. I hated it. I didn't want to play it again. The game has a serious problem that benefits players who've played it before versus players who are new to the game. There's kind of strategies that you wouldn't kind of see if you had never played this before, and I think that's a problem in itself, because if you like this game and you're teaching it to new players, you're just going to absolutely annihilate them. If you're going to play to your best ability, that is, or if you don't, you're just kind of pandering to them. So yeah, it just absolutely fell flat. It lasted way too long, and just no fun. I don't like that kind of destructive player interaction. I mean, that's coming from me. I'm a Care Bear player. I said this is a well-designed game, but one that I hate. I'm not saying it's bad. Not for me at all. That's Food Chain Magnate. So those are 5 games that I absolutely despise. Sorry to be negative again. These games aren't bad in themselves. Maybe Betrayal is a bit bad. But yeah, these are games just I didn't get along with. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.